What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. Sunday morning, August 4th, talking baseball, 9 games on the slate today, joined as usual on Sunday morning by Mr. Travis Mangone. Mangone, how you doing over there on this Sunday morning?
Good. Ready to roll, ready to talk some baseball. It's a pretty good slate too. Some fun pitching to talk about, and weather. We have it all. We got some hot places. We got some rain. Should be a good time, and it's not too many games, so it's not too overwhelming, and should be a good one. So I'm excited to break it down. We got all the Olympic stuff going on, and it's football. I mean, it's basically here. We got preseason next week. That'll be, preseason DFS is good over here at Run Pure Sports. I know our guy Bruce, he did the projections last year. He's doing them again this year, and he won $50K. And he's going to be doing the college football as well, which will happen real soon. So for me, football is kind of already underway. I'm already locked in and ready to roll. I know people are doing best ball drafts. I know I'm doing them as well. So it's a good time over here.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is it? 5 Sundays from now, I believe we'll be on here doing NFL shows. I know, we're getting the schedule set and all that for the RPS crew. So I'm with you. Couldn't be more excited for football. We just have 2 more months of regular season baseball before the playoffs. Baseball is a long season, man. It is. It just keeps going and going.
Too long.
Course, yeah. I mean, they're never going to reduce it just because of the money. I mean, all the sports, right, are kind of too long outside of football, I would say. We don't need 82 NBA games or 162 baseball games, but hey, is what it is, and allows more opportunity to play DFS, sports bet, all that stuff. So with that, let's jump into it. Like I said, 9 games to talk about. They don't start until 1:35 today, so 2.5 hours still before lock. Don't have all the lineups, but they are starting to roll in right now, and certainly we have enough to talk about given the information we have. With that, let's jump into the first game. It is in Atlanta between the Miami Marlins, Atlanta Braves. Marlins going to roll with Edward Cabrera at starting pitcher. He's been pretty decent in the last 2 games. In general, though, hasn't pitched very well this season. Has good stuff, but really no command of it whatsoever. Walks a lot of guys. I do think he's one of those pitchers who can just completely implode, even outside of the offense doing a lot of damage. He can just completely lose control of the strike zone. So I do like stacking in general against pitchers like Edward Cabrera, who are capable of that kind of just implosion inning where they can't get anybody out. So I think the Braves are interesting here. They've got one of the higher team totals on the day, sitting around 5.3 projected runs. And then Max Fried, obviously very, very good pitcher. Coming off the IL, hasn't pitched since July 11th with a forearm injury. And I don't believe he made any rehab starts either. So I got to imagine Max Fried is going to be somewhat limited on the pitch count in this one. Normally goes pretty deep into games, but I would guess maybe 75 pitches here. It is just a guess. Haven't seen anything, confirming that, but that would be where I would set that pitch count total. I'm not too interested in the Marlins, obviously, but I do think the Braves offense is the key thing to focus on in this game. I know you're a big fan of the Braves, Mango, and always want to load up on your favorite team, the Braves. But what are you doing with Braves and Marlins here?
Yeah, I mean, this has got to be like everyone's paying the rake today, right? The Braves with the highest team total. Like, this should be a day to push the chips in, maybe. It's just, I'm not playing the Braves. I will let everyone else play the Braves and call it a day. I believe yesterday I put like 1 Brave in my core, and I felt like an idiot. He didn't do bad. I think it was Austin Riley, so it wasn't terrible, and it was mainly just a one-off. So kind of got away with it. But I am not stacking up this team. I think they're a bad play today. I'll let everyone else play them in ownership. So I'm not playing the Braves. I'll be out on them. And the Marlins against Fried is kind of tough too. I mean, I'll say this. I haven't kept track of it as much lately, but I remember there was a time where Miami just was so bad against lefties and they were getting murdered against them every single time. I worry about Fried in the pitch count. it seems like Fried's getting ownership too. Like if you told me Fried was like 5%, I'd probably be a little more intrigued. Like at 20%, I see there's a lot of options today to consider. So I don't need to get the Fried. I wouldn't fault anyone for playing him, but I would just say if he does get the short hook, like don't be surprised. You can't tilt that. You can't just be complaining about that one. There's a lot of good pitchers today though. So I don't need to play this game. I think for the most part, this one's a fade for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'm with you. I think 20% for Fried is too much on the slate. It is, in my opinion, a pretty good slate for pitching. And generally, yes, I get the matchup is very strong against Miami. No question about that. But, it was an arm injury, a forearm injury that he had. So I assume he was kind of shut down from throwing at least for, the first week or two of that injury. Hard to imagine he's built all the way back up and that the Braves would risk having him go deep into this game with the pitch count, given the time off and the injury there. So I do expect them to be somewhat cautious with Max Fried. Again, we don't know that for sure, but in my opinion, it looks like the market, ownership wise, isn't factoring that in enough. So I'm with you. I'll probably go a different direction. More interest in the Braves offense maybe than you have, but 9-game slate, I totally get it. They've been a team that's mostly been disappointing. And certainly plenty of offenses and hitters to choose from. Let's get to the next game on the slate, Milwaukee and the Washington Nationals. Two younger pitchers here. Tobias Myers going for the Brewers. Quietly has had a pretty strong season. Pitch counts have kind of been all over the place with Tobias Myers, but he has generally pitched pretty well when on the mound. And matchup's not too bad here against the Nationals. So Myers at 8,200, I think, is an okay play. People don't really play Tobias Myers very much, and it does look like that's going to be the case again today. Sabres got him around 1% owned. I'm sure it'll be higher than that, but I don't think a lot of people are going to Myers, and I don't think a lot of people go to Mitchell Parker either here, lefty for the Nationals. He's been okay this year. I do think he is a decent guy to target against, specifically with right-handed power. In this Brewers lineup, I believe the first, 8 hitters are either righties or switch hitters. So I kind of like the Brewers. Really good hitting weather in D.C. Hot, humid, a little bit of wind blowing out to center field. I think this Brewers team, this right-handed power at the top of the lineup in particular, looks pretty good to me against Parker and the Nationals bullpen. I do think you could kind of play both sides of this one. But what are you looking at in this game, man, going Brewers and Nationals?
Yeah, I'm not interested in the pitching. I did like one quick run before we got on just to see what everything was doing. And I got a lot of Milwaukee in like some of the runs with the Sims. And I typically love playing Milwaukee. So I'm in on the Brewers here. We get them, in a pretty good park. It does look like there could be some weather there, but I'm not particularly worried about it. I think it's not going to be a big deal. This is Washington we're dealing with though. So they do some stupid stuff all the time. So be a little bit careful. That's why you got to be in the RPS Discord and be paying attention leading up to lock. So I like the Brewers though. I'll definitely be playing them. If you look, they got Trios at the top, was a really nice value to kind of kick it off. Then you get Contreras, Gary Sanchez. You got to kind of take a pick between a 5K or punt 3.2K option. But that's the thing I like about it. You get like different types of constructions with playing this Brewers team, then followed by Adames, Hoskins, Perkins, Montecero, Ortiz, and Mitchell. A lot of ways to go with this team, and it helps you fit in someone like Paul Skeens later on if you want to play him. So I like this Brewers team. I think they're a really, really good option. They're going to be one of my higher owned stacks of the slate. And this Washington team, they sold with the Lane Thomas thing. I'm actually kind of annoyed that they sold Lane Thomas off to the Guardians. I thought that he was a good building block. Maybe they can't like keep him. I don't know what the reasoning was behind it, but Lane Thomas definitely helps out that Guardians team a bunch. And it just makes this Nationals lineup so much more worse, right? Like Harold Ramirez and like the 4-hole, like got guys like Alex Call. Like it's not as good of a lineup for sure. So for me, I'm not super excited about the Nationals, and I'm not excited about playing Tobias Myers either. I don't think he's bad, but I just think on this pitching slate, he's not someone I love. I could see in 150 getting like, a little bit of exposure and calling it a day, but I'm not playing 150 today, so I'm not playing Tobias Myers.
Yeah. Pinch hit risk for the Brewers. Sanchez would be, I think, number one. And then Monasterio down there in the 7 hole, I think, would be the other guy to be a little bit concerned about pinch hitting. For me, Sanchez, catcher is such a weak position, 3,200. He crushes lefties. I'm still willing to play him, even with the pinch hit risk. And it's not ever guaranteed that the pinch hit risk will kind of come to play. So, yeah, some risk there. I still do think Sanchez is a good play. And, Saber does have the Brewers as one of the higher-owned stacks on the slate, which does make sense to me. They were one of the teams that kind of clearly stuck out when I was digging in before looking at ownership. I still do like them, but it does look like they will be a popular team. Pretty bad bullpen behind Mitchell Parker as well. So still do like the Brewers, but it does look like the field is going to be on them for the most part as well. Let's get to Toronto and the New York Yankees. Good hitting weather in New York. And I did look up the radar just now. This would be the other game that has some risk, or at least some potential for rain, but it looks really, really clean. I would be surprised if there's any issue at all in DC and New York. Obviously, it's hot and humid, so maybe pop-up storms, but I do think these games should be fine. Back to the game, Garrett Cole going for the Yankees. He's had some good outings, but in general has not really pitched well. I think he was moved back scratched from last Tuesday's start. So he's pitching on 10 or 11 days rest here. His last start did not go well against the Mets. Did have strong starts before that. It's kind of hard to know what's going on with him with the injury stuff. I don't think he's completely fully healthy, but he does get a watered down Blue Jays lineup who, if this was, classic Garrett Cole, I do think he would be an interesting player at 8,600. I don't think I'm going to get to him, but curious your thoughts on him. And then Yariel Rodriguez going for the Blue Jays. He's been okay this year as well. He's coming off a very rough outing, only recorded 2 outs, 3 earned runs against the Orioles. And the Yankees have a team total close to 6 in this one. Big total for the Yankees, expected to do some damage. Part of it is the bullpen for the Blue Jays has been really, really bad, especially recently, and they also are pretty worn out from the last few games. So hard not to like the Yankees here. I do think they're going to be one of the more popular teams, but understandably so. Throw it over to you, Mangone, for Yankees Blue Jays here.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting one. Obviously, the Yankees, people are going to like them. They're going to like Judge. They're going to like Soto. They're not particularly easy to get today with like Skeens on the slate. There are some values, though, that we'll talk about at pitcher that could help you get there. But I'm just saying this isn't a slate where you like, obviously Paul Skeens is on it, right? So when you play Paul Skeens, you want to get Judge and Soto, you do start running out of salary early for sure. They do have values on their team like Austin Wells at 3.9K. He's not where he was like 3.2 or 2.8, but still cheap. Gleyber Torres is a really nice value too at second base at 3.4K. You keep seeing the Yankees. They keep kind of shuffling in different guys at that one hole, and that kind of helps provide value. It was Ben Rice at a time, Anthony Volpe. So right now it's Gleyber Torres. Jazz is hitting the ball hot too, right? Like you can't play all these guys. You can't play Jazz, Judge, and Soto. It's just like feels like it's kind of very difficult to do. So you got to kind of have to pick which one you think is the best. So that's kind of one of the issues with playing this team, but they're clearly a good option. You have to like them. There is going to be weather concerns here. I would believe they get the game over with, right? They have all day to do it. So I think the game plays.
I think they're going to be fine weather-wise. I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. I would worry about it with Cole just slightly. If you're deciding to play him, I'll say that. Like that's the only thing I would at least think a little bit about. And honestly, I didn't love Cole in this spot. Like I said, there's all that like uncertainty with him. There's other pitchers I already like on this slate. So I understand if you want to play Cole. Like for instance, if George Springer was in that Blue Jays lineup, I would probably like that Blue Jays lineup a ton. It just looks a lot worse. I don't totally hate the idea of playing like minis of the Blue Jays against Garrett Cole. We know he can give up home runs. Vladimir Guerrero, I know he's got good BVP against Cole if you care about that. I know some people like that, but this dude's the hottest guy on the planet right now. So I want to consider playing Vladdy in a matchup that he's seen well. Horowitz, I don't mind him. Varsho, he's a decently cheap value. Alejandro Kirk is another one I don't hate. Joey Loperfido's not bad. And Ernie Clement hitting in the one hole. It's not a terrible value piece too. So there's options here with the Blue Jays. I just prefer them more as minis because I know how Garrett Cole can be. Likely not going to just put a lot of guys on and he will give up a bomb or two. It's just a matter of, trying to play my cards right, not play all these Blue Jays, and then I just bubble, right? I want to at least go for the minis. I think that's where it makes a lot more sense here with Toronto. So obviously the Yankees are in play. They're one of the best stacks of the day, and don't sleep on this Blue Jays mini stack.
I like it. Yeah, especially Vlad, who just, like you said, been just ripping the cover off the ball, hitting like 560 over the last 10 games. Yeah, last 10 games averaging 16.4 DraftKings fantasy point per game. So Vlad's been on fire. I'm with you. I don't think you need to go with the full Blue Jays stack. Just getting, especially Vlad, maybe a hitter or two around him makes some sense. And I'm with you on Cole. Not going to be on my main lineups today. I do think he's a fine play. I don't know. I just don't really trust Garrett Cole right now. And I know this Blue Jays lineup is watered down, but they still, in general, do a pretty good job of making contact. So I'll probably go elsewhere. And, I haven't built lineups, but like you said, it's got to be tough to fit in. I would say the three stars for the Yankees right now is Soto and Judge, and then a tier behind them, but still, I think a really fun play is Jazz Chisholm down in that 6th hole. So, yeah, if you can afford the Yankees, if there's some cheap pitching you like, I do think they're a very good option. But certainly, you won't see very many people combining Soto and Judge and Paul Skeens. Just really hard to fit given their price tags on this slate. Get to Arizona and Pittsburgh up next. Paul Skeens is going for the Pirates here. I think he might be just straight up the best pitcher in baseball right now. I think that's, he's right. He's got to be on the very, very short list. He's been awesome. Not a perfect matchup here against the Diamondbacks. The D-backs not as good against right-handed pitching. So he does have that going for him. Still a decent lineup, and a lineup that does make quite a bit of contact. Obviously, Skeens always in play, certainly in play here at 10.3K. Does look like he will be the most popular pitcher, or certainly among the most popular pitchers on this slate. Sabres currently got Skeens at 37% and leading the slate in ownership. I think that makes sense to me. Arizona will go with Ryan Nelson on the hill. He's pitched well, actually, recently. Has been really good in 4 of his last 5 starts, including 7 shutout innings against the Nationals last time out with 9 strikeouts. He's always had good stuff, and at least recently he's kind of putting it together. So he's interesting, I think, at 5,900 against a somewhat light-hitting Pirates team. Certainly allows you to get in some of those big bats, if you're on the Yankees or whatever. So I think Nelson is a fine play, obviously, like Paul Skeens. Probably not going to end up on many bats in this one. It would be the Pirates lefties that I think are the best plays, specifically that 2-3 combination of Brian Reynolds and O'Neal Cruz, I think, is interesting if you do want to go up against some Ryan Nelson today. I'll throw it over to you, though, Mangone. What are you doing with Pirates and D-backs?
Yeah, DC, here's the question for you. One guy has to pitch for your life. Paul Skeens or Chris Sale? Who do you want trotting out there for you?
Like today?
Yeah, today. They're coming out today. For me, it's Paul Skeens. I want him on the mound. I'm
going Skeens as well. I'm with you. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the dude didn't fumble the live done bag. So he definitely can handle the pressure. I'd say that. So but yeah, I'm a big fan of Skeens today. Obviously, it's a good spot. I will say Arizona has been mashing the ball. I know that was against Luis Ortiz where they went triple and then back to back to back. It was pretty crazy, but I just think Skeens is just too good. I think it's a spot where he absolutely just lights him up. I also like Nelson a lot too. Nelson is definitely a pretty solid value today at 5.9K. If you are trying to jam in those Yankees outfielders, he's a great way to do it. So I do not like the bats in this game, and I would definitely be leaning with the pitching. So it's simple. If I need value or salary relief, it's Nelson. If I want, just to grab the chalk Skeens, that's perfectly fine. Other ways to be different. We like playing good plays, right? We're not just going to cancel out the good plays and find something different. I know baseball has a lot of variance, but you got to find the right spots to do it. And this is not a spot that I want to get away from. So I like Skeens and I like Nelson, and this is a game 7.5 total. I don't need to play any bats. If this one is on the winner from the bats, then I'll just take my L and move on to tomorrow's slate.
Yeah, not skiing. Ryan Nelson kind of digging into what he's been doing recently. It does look like he's been really lucky on batted ball luck for the most part. He's pitched better, but looking up like the plate discipline game log, I expected to see more whiffs, more swinging strikes. Really hasn't been the case. So I still think he's a fine play, but if you're just looking at the game log with Ryan Nelson, you probably get overinflated opinion of just how well he's been pitching. Yes, he's been better. I do still think he's more or less the same guy that we saw struggle for most of the season.
McCutchen in that lineup. No McCutchen in that lineup either, DC. They have Isaiah Kiner Falefa batting first. And then it's Reynolds, Cruz, De La Cruz, Tellez, Bart, Bay, Trioli, and Grandal. So definitely not the strongest Pirates lineup. It's not as bad as when they didn't have Reynolds in there, but no McCutchen does matter.
Yeah, I think Nelson is a fine play at 5,900. And the savings does go a long way on this slate, obviously, with some of those Yankees bats being in play and all that. So that's Arizona and Pittsburgh. Certainly good options for pitching there. Probably won't go too crazy with the bats other than, as I mentioned, Brian Reynolds and O'Neill Cruz. Brings us to Baltimore and Cleveland. We've got Gavin Williams going for the Guardians. A lot of talent in that arm. He is coming off a very strong outing against Detroit, 5 shutout innings, 8 strikeouts in that one. And then Corbin Burns for Baltimore has been really good all season, kind of quietly putting together a big season for the Orioles. Both these pitchers relatively expensive. Burns coming in at 9,500, Williams at 8K flat, and certainly tough matchups for both of these guys. Really fun, real life game here against two, World Series contenders. I think it's safe to say for both these squads. Curious though what you're doing with this one, man, going Orioles and Guardians.
Yeah, I typically don't play like bats from 7.5 totals, and I don't really see myself doing it here. I really wish the pricing, like if you told me Corbin Burns was like 8.5 or 8.7, that would kind of be a little more enticing. Gavin Williams, if he was like 7.1 or 7.2, I think that'd be more enticing. I just think these pitchers feel a little overpriced. Would I be shocked if either of them get over 20 and have a good games? No, but I also don't think they're just going to burn me on this slate if I don't play them. So I'm not super excited about them. If I was MMEing, I'd probably want to be overweight on Burns just because it's Corbin Burns, and I assume he's not going to have a lot of ownership. Let me just double check so I don't speak because if he's 40% owned, that would be bad. No, he's 13, at least on Sabre, which I could even see that going down. Just no one ever wants to pick on this Guardians team. So I think in MME, I'd want to be overweight on Burns. Not as much on Gavin Williams. And then the bats, I just don't see it here. I don't need to play this game. I know we talked about this Cleveland ballpark being a little bit more hitter friendly, but I'm just not really interested in this one from the bats perspective.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm not going to get to too many bats here. And yeah, these prices and ownerships on the pitchers, they seem about where they should be to me. You mentioned Burns. Seaber's got him, probably between 10 and 15% ownership. Probably around the same for Gavin Williams, maybe a little bit lower. I think they're fine plays, but again, I doubt I'm going to end up with them. A couple questions in the chat. Yeah, we talked about the Braves pitch count for Fried. My guess was 75 there. It is just a guess, but that's kind of where I would set up. Maybe up to 80, but I don't think he's going to go super deep into that one, Max Fried. So did want to address that question for people who got in here a little bit late. And yeah, if you wanted to try to pick off a home run in this game, I think that's fine, but I don't see full stacking against either of these pitchers ending up on the winner today. So I'm with you. Probably going to look elsewhere for bats. That does get us halfway through this slate. Good time to remind you guys, hit the like button if you're here with us on Sunday morning enjoying the show. Hit the like button for us. It does help us out, helps us bring you guys all the free content we do on the YouTube channel. And if you do want to sign up, join the winners at RPS. With football coming up, you can use promo code RPS 15 for 15% off your first weekly, monthly, or full package payment. All right, let's get to Kansas City and Detroit. This one in Detroit going to be pretty warm, 90 degrees. So normally a pitcher's park will play a little bit more hitter friendly today. There'll be Michael Wacha going for Kansas City. Keeps chugging right along this year. He's been quite good. I don't play a whole ton of Michael Wacha, just a little bit of lack of strikeouts in general, but I do think he's at least interesting against a light-hitting Tiger squad. And then the Tigers are going to go with, looks like something of a bullpen game, going to be Alex Fido that gets the start. Would expect maybe 2 innings from him, and then various pitchers out of the Tigers' pen. So for me, no Tigers pitchers are in play. I do think Wacha is interesting at 8,400. Probably not a huge ceiling, but he does seem relatively safe here and a good place to pitch against a pretty bad Tigers lineup. And then I think the Royals have got to be in play against the bullpen game for the Tigers. What are you doing, man, going with Royals and Tigers here?
Yeah, I wish the Tigers had Riley Green in there, because if they did, I think I'd be like a little interested in the Tigers, but especially on a slate where you want to play Skeens and some other expensive pitchers. But if you like Tigers minis aren't crazy, I think on this slate. Like if you went like Perez and Cole Keith or like a Keith and Verling, I wouldn't say it's crazy today to help kind of get an expensive stack in there with expensive pitching. Royals, I think Michael Wacha, like I said, I talked about the Tigers just now as like a minis. I think you can easily play Wacha too. I don't think he's terrible. We know he can go to the distance. We know the Tigers can can play very bad. So I think Wacha is not the craziest. Again, when we look for these pitchers that have upside, we want them to be able to go deep into the game. And this is someone that I think can. I think he has enough upside. So like Wacha a little bit. And I don't mind Kansas City here going up against Detroit. It's just the question is, can we fit them in? I mean, they have expensive price tags. Like if you play KC, like getting Bobby Witt, Sal Perez, Vinny P, like they're just, it does add up with them. So that's the one thing when I look at them versus the Yankees, is this the team that I want to stack up? That's really the big debate and question. So that's my only issue. And like, if you do have Royal stacks, I think this is super important to look at. Don't stack up the Royals and not play Bobby Witt Jr. right now. Like he's just too good of a play. Like if you're playing like 5-man Royals, I think you want to have him in there. It just should be. I mean, I don't know how you can like set that rule and like an optimizer. I don't think it's possible. Like, but I'm just saying, scan your Royals teams. I think that matters.
I'm with you. Yeah, Witt's been one of the best hitters in baseball all season, of course, and not slowing down anytime soon. It does not appear. So, yeah, if I'm stacking Royals, Bobby Witt's just got to be in there. You know, could get the job done without him, but it seems pretty unlikely to me. So. Worth the price tag there, I think, at 6,500, especially if you're going with other Royals around him. And yeah, with the Tigers, I don't hate it if you need the salary savings. They do have some cheap guys, especially in the bottom half of that lineup. If you do need the salary savings, if you're trying to get Skeens, Yankees, those types of plays, certainly makes some sense to get to the salary saving Detroit Tigers in a reasonable matchup against Michael Wacha. Brings us to our last 3 games on this slate. Tampa Bay and Houston up first. We've got Spencer Arrighetti pitching for Houston. He's had a really, for the most part, easy matchups, and he's taken advantage of most of them. The overall ERA and WHIP and stuff still look bad. He's had, I think, 2 or 3 just complete disaster outings. He's had a lot of good ones, though, too. So he's kind of been all over the place. I do like him quite a bit here. Spencer Arrighetti, 7,600, going up against this Tampa team who I think their lineup got a little bit worse and more strikeout heavy with the changes they made at the trade deadline. So I do think they're a team to target with right-handed pitching in general right now. And I do think that's certainly true of Arrighetti, who I like quite a bit at that 7.6K price tag. Going to be a bullpen game for Tampa. Lefty Tyler Alexander looks like he's going to be kind of the bulk guy, maybe 3 to 4 innings, something like that out of him. Not in play for me, although I do think the Astros are an interesting stack. terms of what the betting market thinks. Yeah, they've got Astros minus 165 to minus 170, and a pretty reasonably big total for the Astros as well, sitting around 4.75 runs projected. Over to you, Mangone. What are you doing with Arrighetti, and are the Astros piquing your interest at all in this slate?
Yeah, I love Arrighetti here. I liked him last time against the Dodgers. I talked him up a ton. I'm going to like him here again, too. I think it's a really good spot. We do have that Rays lineup. It is – okay, Mead is in the 3-hole. It's definitely an ugly lineup for sure. So I don't even know some of these guys. Like, who is Cameron Misner? I don't even know who he is. It's a bad lineup. So I want to attack this team for sure. I wish Morel was in there today because he's like, just a bunch of strikeouts waiting to happen. But Arrighetti's definitely a good play. Like him a lot. I think he's a really good pitching option today. Astros are the tough one I don't know what to do with because I typically hate targeting bullpen games. And like, if you look at some of the ownership today, it does feel like the ownership right now is probably the Yankees and Milwaukee are like the top two offenses that a lot of people will go to. And rightfully so. They're really good plays. The Astros naturally are not going to get as much ownership as they probably should, but it's a bullpen game. They do have a 4-point, I think it's like almost 5 total on DraftKings. So part of me wants to like them just based on an ownership play. My biggest worry though is I just hate bullpen games so much. Like that's the biggest concern that I have, but I just think at their ownership, and let me just double check again in Saber. Like if I just sort by it, which I always love to do with the tool. Yeah, we're getting them all at like 5% or lower, and that's just too low. So I'm definitely going to have to give the Astros a little bit more of a harder look despite it being a bullpen game because the idea of getting Bregman, Altuve, Jordan all at like 5% or less, it's just too hard to pass up on. And I know I hate bullpen games, especially the Tampa ones, but it's not like this Tampa team is like all these great bullpen arms just like stashed there ready to go. Like Tampa's just a seller this year. They're not good. They're very bad. So gotta like some Astros. I think that ownership is going to stay where it's at. Like I know sometimes we see ownership and we worry it's not there and it like maybe gets steamed up. Like I think it sticks just because a lot of the expensive bats that are going to get ownership are just, we know they're going to get the ownership naturally. And then we have guys like Skeens and other expensive guys that people want to play where I just think naturally the Astros will get under owned. So I think at their ownership, they have to be one of the stronger plays on this slate.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like them quite a bit. And like you said, not that many good arms out of the pen for the Rays. I do think they'll ask Tyler Alexander to go 3 or 4 innings in this one. He's not a very good pitcher, so the matchup's certainly good there. And yeah, I kind of like the Astros both hitting and pitching wise in this one. With you on Arrighetti, I do think he is pretty clearly the best kind of cheaper option at pitcher on the slate. It does look like that's going to be reflected in ownership, seeing around 30 to 35% from Saber on Arrighetti, which would likely put him as the second highest owned pitcher. I still am okay eating a little bit of chalk on Arrighetti, trying to get different elsewhere. Just think he's a pretty safe play with some upside at 7,600. So I'm with you there in on Mr. Spencer Arrighetti. Let's get to the White Sox and the Twins here. This White Sox team, man, they just don't have much left. But yeah, they do have their lineup out. They still got Luis Robert in there, but man, other than that, this is just a team that has, a ton of strikeouts, not much punch. I mean, they just don't have really anything going for them right now. Do the White Sox? It's going to put almost every pitcher that faces them in play, I think, basically for the regular season. Woods Richardson has been a pretty low upside, but mostly consistent performer. He is coming off one of his worst starts of the year against the Mets last time out. But yeah, 7,100 for, 80 to 90 pitches of I think maybe slightly better than league average arm for Woods Richardson. It's just got to be in play. So I do have interest there. No interest in Chris Flexen, who has struggled all year long. He's a pitcher to target against, and certainly the Twins going to be, I assume, a popular stack today. 5.5 team total for them, and pretty reasonable prices as well. Royce Lewis, the only Twin in the lineup with over 5K price tag. So this lineup, much easier to afford than a team like the Yankees. Gotta like the Twins side of this game. Almost minus 300 are the Twins against the White Sox today. Mangone, what are you doing with Twins and White Sox here?
Yeah, I think this is a really good spot for the Twins. I'm going to be all over them. I know I don't typically say that, DC, but I think they're one of the best plays on the slate. I don't think their ownership is going to be that high either. So I see some of the guys getting ownership, like Willie Castro, I know is getting a little bit, Byron Buxton. But I don't know. I think just like the Yankees get steamed so hard in this spot that I'm going to be all over the Twins. I think they're one of the best plays. Flexen is someone that we love to target on almost every single slate. So I'm going to continue to target him here. Also, I just happened to look up the Flexen BVP because I was curious, because I had a feeling someone, and it has crazy amounts. And it's Byron Buxton. That was one. I mean, it's not a huge sample, but it is 8 for 11. I remember seeing that one time watching a game. So Buxton is definitely someone that he's been hitting the ball really well too. Like, he seems like he's back in a good groove, and he's a very streaky player. He's one of those guys, when he's hit on, like, I want to be on him, and I think he's a good play here. Like Royce Lewis. Larnach's in there. I know you're a big Larnach guy at 3.7K. He'll provide a little bit of value throughout that lineup. I always like Max Kepler just because I think he's got so much upside at 4K. So there's a lot of really good plays here. Which ones are the biggest pinch hit risks for you, DC, based on this lineup? I think that's important to ask, just because the Twins, they do pinch hit guys. It's not as bad as last year, but they definitely have guys that are a little more riskier to play for sure. And like, I feel like Willie Castro is one of those guys at times, but I don't know. Who are some of the guys you're looking at?
I think Castro will be fine, switch hitter. But yeah, the two outfielders, Wallner and Larnach. I think Wallner rather is slightly riskier, but yeah, both those outfielders could be pinch hit for. I think the rest of the lineup is mostly pretty safe. Looking up the Chicago.
Yeah, I think they're safe, DC, too, because Correa is out, right? That's a big deal too. So that helps out the infielders for sure.
Yeah, the White Sox do have a couple of lefties in the pen. Actually, I think 3, and all 3 look like they're available to pitch in this game. So yeah, definitely some pinch hit risk for those lefty outfielders, Walnut and Wallner for the Twins. Is
Flexen a stolen base guy? I always forget. Is he one weekend? Because if so, Austin Martin would be a really good option. Because he's a punt second baseman. You can also play him in the outfield. I wouldn't worry that much about him getting pinch hit for, I think, too, again, with like the Correa stuff. And he's so fast. So I think he's an interesting option that could get you to double digits quick.
Yeah, just 3 stolen bases allowed this year for Flexen. So now teams aren't running too much, and the Twins don't run that much in general. And certainly Flexen has given up plenty of base runners, right? He's had plenty of opportunities against him, only 3 stolen bases. So probably not going to be a big part of the Twins' game plan today. But, I still do think Austin Martin's a reasonable play at that price point. Obviously, if you're trying to get some savings, just probably not going to be going crazy on the base paths today. Last game on the slate, we'll do, of course, stacks and pitching and all that after we get through Boston and Texas. 2 good right-handed pitchers here. You got Nick Pivetta going for Boston. He's been a very high upside option for most of the year. Has had his fair share of rough outings, but some very, very strong ones as well. Actually has double-digit strikeouts in 3 of his last 5 games. So missing a ton of bats. I think he's a pretty solid play here at 8,500 against this Rangers team, who they've got some big names, but they're not a team that I mind targeting. Certainly Pivetta has earned that consideration with the strikeout numbers that he's put up. And then Nathan Eovaldi pitching well this year for the Rangers. I don't really use many right-handed pitchers, though, against Boston, who does set up much better against righties than they do lefties. So I don't think I'm playing Eovaldi here. Certainly have more interest in Pivetta, even though the Rangers are the slight favorites in this game. Last game on the slate here, Mangone, what are you doing with Boston and Texas?
Yeah, I don't think I'm interested in this game at all. I mean, if this game was in Boston, I'd maybe be a little more intrigued because of the weather, the better park. Like, I mean, Pivetta and Evaldi are not really guys I'm trying really hard to pick on. Like I said, I'd maybe pick on Pivetta if this game was in Boston, but it's just not. So I'm not really that interested in this game. I think you could make the argument in MME. Like I could totally argue for Evaldi or Pivetta as like low owned pitching options that could get you 20 plus and even get to 30. Like if Evaldi got 30 DK points, I wouldn't be totally surprised. Like it'd be very impressive, right? But I wouldn't be surprised. I know he has that in his bag. So overall, a slate where there's so many good pitchers. These guys are going to be low owned that you could take a shot in tournaments, but bats wise, I really don't love it. Like, sure, I'm not gonna blow up my teams if I get Corey Seager as a one-off, right? I know what his power is. He hit 2 home runs the other day, but not a spot I'm full stacking up these guys or loading up on stacks.
Yeah, I think we have similar approaches to this slate in general. Lee asks, can't get to Skeens and the Yankees build favorite pitcher to pair with Arrighetti. For me, it would be either Woods Richardson there at 7,100 for the Twins, or if you do need some salary savings, which it sounds like you do, I don't mind going down to Ryan Nelson. But yeah, Pivetta, pretty good option. I think kind of those four or five guys is what I'm looking at. Skeens, Pivetta, Arrighetti, Woods Richardson, and Nelson, I think would be the 5 guys that I'll be using mostly today. Real quick recap on the pitching there. Let's get into the stacks, man. Going your favorite stack on the slate and your favorite contrarian stack.
Favorite stack will be the Twins. We'll go with that, and then contrarian one will be the Astros. So I do think the 2 stacks that everyone's playing are probably Yankees and Brewers, but my favorite stack is going to be the Twins, and I just think those Astros are way too low on. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I like it. My favorite stack is the Brewers against lefty Mitchell Parker. Really good hitting conditions. Ball's going to be flying in DC, and I think the Brewers have a chance to do a lot of damage with the long ball. We'll mostly be sticking to the top 5 or 6, though, in that Brewers lineup. Contrarian stack. I don't know if the Royals will be super contrarian on this slate. I do think they'll go a little bit overlooked given the Twins, Yankees, Brewers. So I'll go with the Royals as my contrarian stack. Like you mentioned, be sure to get Bobby Witt in there if you are going with that Royals stack for sure. Pitching, we just kind of went over it, but who's going to be your most important pitcher on the slate? May I go?
Most important pitcher? Yeah, that is a good question. It's probably either Skeens or Getty. I think it'll be Skeens. We'll go with him. But those are the 2 guys. I'm okay eating chalk at pitcher today.
Yeah, me too. I am trying to get a little bit different if possible. I mean, Skeens and Arrighetti we do project to be the highest owned. I'll go with Woods Richardson. I think I'm going to have quite a bit of him at 7,100. Just picking on the White Sox. This really comes down to just as simple as that. Not that Woods Richardson is that great of a pitcher, but I think he's good enough against the White Sox to get the job done at that cheap $7,100 price tag. So that is stacks in pitching. Let's get a home run call, man, going. Who's going yard today?
Yeah, going yard will be the man, Royce Lewis. He just always goes yard, and he's taking Chris Flexen deep. So we'll go with Royce Lewis.
I like that. There are 2 catchers to choose from on the Brewers. I will go with the cheaper one of the 2, Gary Sanchez, taking Mitchell Parker deep. I did mention the pinch hit risk for him. I think it is there, but Sanchez should get at least 2, maybe 3, and you never know. Maybe they just leave him in there all game long. Love Gary Sanchez at 3,200 a catcher. I'm sure he'll be a popular play, but I do think he's one of the best point per dollar hitters and especially catchers on this particular slate. Certainly like William Contreras as well, but obviously can't play both those guys in the same lineup. Finally, Mangone, your favorite overall hitter on the slate.
Yeah, favorite overall hitter, we're going to go with Byron Buxton. He's been swinging a hot bat, and I want to be all over him today. So Byron Buxton. And I'm all over the Twins, DC. You don't see that happen too much this year. So this is the day.
be ready for pain going with the twin stack there. I will go to the Yankees. I'm going to keep riding the Jazz Chisholm train. I know he's a little bit more expensive now at 5K. It's cooled off a little bit in the last 3 games, but still love what I'm seeing out of him as a member of the Yankees, and just a tremendous upside with the power speed combo, the short porch in right field in Yankee Stadium. Certainly a lot going on for Jazz Chisholm and the Yankees on this slate. That'll do it for this show. We'll get out a little bit early here today, get to building those lineups. We'll, of course, be in the Discord answering any questions from the members. Lock's still, an hour and a half away. So plenty of time to get those lineups in. Hopefully we'll see a bunch of RPS logos up top. And, the show will be back tomorrow afternoon at the normal time on Monday. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you all have a great Sunday. Hopefully we'll get some winners out there from the RPS crew. But that'll do it for now. He's Mangone. I'm Draft Sheet. We're